Hello everybody, and welcome back to another Java tutorial. In this tutorial we are going to be talking about scope. So scope is one of the most important things in programming, and I know I've said this a lot about basically every tutorial, but it is really important, and if you don't understand scope, then that's it. You need to understand this. So I know some of you are going to be thinking, oh my god, this is basic, everyone knows scope. Everyone does not know scope, okay? Scope is a lot more complex than you may think it is. So, okay, let's basically do what we did in the previous tutorial, okay? So in the previous tutorial, and I can open it up on my side here, we had this code right here, and I'm actually going to go ahead and copy this code, and I'm going to paste it in here. So it's exactly the same as the last tutorial, and you can write this out if you wish. It doesn't really matter, but you can if you wish. And by the way, guys, I do recommend that you kind of actually try to follow along with these tutorials in your IDE of choice. It will just help to understand exactly what's happening. If you're not following along, you may think you're sort of understanding it, but you're never really going to learn it without doing it. In most circumstances, some people learn differently, of course, but for the majority of cases, you're going to need to actually try and do something yourself. So let's say after we print hello there, let's say we want to get an input from the user, right? So let's say string, and in fact no, we'll go with an integer just to be a little bit fancy. So we'll have int number is equal scanner.nextInt. Fairly simple, right? Now, what if we want to go ahead and what if we now want to use this number to print something? So let's say we want to print sout number. And you'll see that doesn't work. So why? Why doesn't this work? We have our number here, right? And you can see it's even grayed out. So it's not being used, is what it says right there. So, and this has an error. So why can't we use this number? And this is basically scope. This is the simplest definition of scope. You can't use this number here because if you look at these brackets we have for our if statement, you'll see that this is inside of our if condition. So anything outside of it can't access it. Now you may think, but this print is happening afterwards, right? So surely we should have access to that number because we have gotten that number, it exists, so why don't we have access to it? And you've got to think of it in the case of this input being false, right? If this input is false, so let's say I input something other than hello, let's say I input bye, for example, then this number is never going to be created. And so when we come down to here, we don't know what number is. It just doesn't exist in our context. So you'll see that it just doesn't make sense to have this number be in here. So it's really generally a very simple thing to solve scope issues. So as you can see, even IntelliJ will tell me that it can bring it into scope. So if I press this, you'll see it actually does some really weird stuff here. You don't really need to worry about that. But what we can really do here is we can just say int number is equal scanner.nextInt. And now that it is outside of our if statement, you see that we can access it in here. So let's go ahead and try this. Let's just sout something here. Let's say how old are you? And I'll just put this on a new line, which, if you remember, is \n. Don't worry about that too much, but that's just what you need to know. And if we run this, let's see what happens. So it doesn't say any. In fact, let's make it say something immediately. So let's say, let's just shout, say hello to me, please. And let's give that a run. Okay, so you will see that it does not say anything because I put it in the wrong place. So we want this to be before we actually request our input here. So let's run it again. Okay, and it says, say hello to me, please. And let's say hello. And then it'll say, how old are you? Great. So let's input 7. Which is exactly what we want, right? So we want to say hello to me, please. And then we look at what they've said. We check if they've said hello. If they've said hello, then we reply with hello. And then we go ahead and ask how old are they. And we get their input and we output the input back to them. So we could also say just something other here. So I don't know. Oh, that's nice. I don't really know how to phrase this, but something like years old is a good age. And obviously that needs to be like that, but I'll just write some placeholder text here. So if we run this again, we just should be able to see it looks a little bit easier to understand maybe. So we say hello, and remember we can obviously do whatever casing we want, that's fine. How old are you? I'm 7. Oh, that's nice. 7 years old is a good age. Okay, that is a little bit simpler to understand here. So now let's try putting something other than hello, right? So without this if condition. So let's run again. And let's not put hello. Let's put bye. It doesn't matter what we put, of course, but we can just put bye. And you'll see it still says how old are you? And that's great. And it will still look for our input. Obviously, if we didn't want that, then we can use scope to our advantage. So obviously, this if condition, this is basically a new scope. So you could think of this like, what's a good real world example of this? So basically we have like, let's say you have 2 groups of people, right? Let's say you have an inner circle of friends and an outer circle of friends. Now, things that happen within your inner circle of friends, you don't want to express to your outer circle of friends, right? It might be more private information, that is to say, that you don't want everyone to know. So you keep that within your inner group of friends. Now, what we consider here is this whole main thing here, this whole main method, right? This is your outer group of friends. So this is everything. Okay, we'll just consider that everything. And then this in this if statement, everything in here is your inner group of friends. So anything that happens in here stays within here. Now that's not always the case, right? So as you'll see, what IntelliJ did before is it tried to create a number variable up here. It went int number is equal 0. And that's obviously going to give us an error because of this. But you'll see, actually, if I go ahead and plonk this back in here, and let's also plonk this back in here, and then let's assign number in here. So Now what happens is this number exists to our outer group of friends. So they can see that there is a number. It could be any, it's just, by default, it's 0, right? So that's the number they can see. They can see 0. Now, what we're doing in our inner group of friends is we're asking how old are they? And whatever number they respond with is being set into here. So it's asking only our inner group of friends what happens, and then it tells our outer group of friends what the response was. I think that's a good way of thinking of it. And you'll see if we use this number here, it will actually only have the correct sort of number if it asked our inner group of friends. You'll see that if this if statement didn't happen, right, if it never queried our inner group of friends, then our outer group will never know. So if we run again, right, it's a bit stuck there, but we'll run again, and we'll say hello to them, and we'll say how old are you. Okay, so we'll say that we are 9 this time, and then it says, oh nice, that's 9 years old is a good age. You'll see that we can now use this number over here, even though this number is never being set out in our outer group of friends, only being set in our inner group of friends. So if we run again, and this time we won't say hello, we'll say bye. Once again, it doesn't matter, and just to prove that, we'll just put whatever. And then it says, oh nice, 0 years of age. 0 years old is a good age, because our outer group of friends only knows it as being 0. Our inner group of friends were never asked what age they were. So that's basically the whole idea of scope, and I've made this video way longer than it needs to be, but I just kind of wanted to explain that as much as I could, because it is a little bit hard to understand if it's your first time messing with it. But hopefully the idea of being groups of friends maybe helps here. I know you guys don't have much friends, but that's besides the point, right? So yeah, that should be pretty good. So if you guys did find this tutorial useful in any way, please do be sure to smash your face into that like button and give it a subscribe as well. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next tutorial. Goodbye.